let's move on to your section here, which is back on the subject of health.
Yeah, now this is going to be interesting because my postbag has been literally full this week about one topic in particular. But before I go on to it, just want to say thank you to the viewer that wrote to me a physical letter that I have here to say that they haven't got a smartphone. They've never opted in to any of the NHS. They've opted out of everything. They have an old mothballed email address. They've never used any of their contact details for the NHS, and yet they have been bombarded with messages and letters and texts and all sorts and emails from the NHS. So the question is, who is giving your data to the NHS? Could it be your mobile phone provider? That's a question I'll throw out to everybody. But in the meantime, The Economist has brought out an article to say that the world's largest health research study is now underway in the UK. Now, this pilot was last year, and it's going to be looking to recruit 5 million people in order to weigh them, measure them, genotype them, input their data to see who gets sick and why. So let's go to NHS Digital, and you can see how they invite people to join the Future Health Research Programme. And pretty much everybody is eligible. If you're if you're over 18, then you're eligible. And this is where our viewers come in. I'm so valuable and so grateful, because not only do I receive emails, but I do receive letters. And thank you to Dot, who sent me this letter that many people seem to have been receiving. And this is from Future Health. And you can see that it's signed from Ali Raghib and Professor John Bell. We've spoken about Professor John Bell many times. But basically, they're inviting residents to take part in this huge study, talking also of blood tests and analysing your DNA. So it's there right in front of your face. And also thank you so much to Peter and Judy, who sent this to Josie about Future Health. They included the same letter, and they said they didn't know, they hadn't seen it before, and had I seen it and I hadn't. So thank you very much indeed for letting us know. And another email too from Jim to say, have we heard about Future Health? Because he's received a letter from them as well. And not only that, but a £10 voucher to entice him to fill out the questionnaire. So I went to have a look at Future Health. So let's have a look at them. Who are they and what do they do? Well, this is apparently an ambitious collaboration between public, charity and private sectors. No surprise there then. So they apparently prevent, detect, treat disease. Can you see the AI overlap in this? And running it is, as we just spoke about, Dr. Raghib Ali. Now, Dr. Raghib Ali, he might look a bit scary there, or perhaps a bit starey, but he's a clinical epidemiologist, and you've got all of the old names that you're so familiar with by now: UK Biobank, Cambridge, Oxford. He's been awarded an OBE. So all the usual names. But what I was interested in was who's alongside him in his leadership team. And one of these gentlemen is called Michael Warren, and he's the Chief Communication Officer. Now, he's got a long history, UK bio industry, 17 years as a civil servant. He's worked for Innovate UK, the Department of Work and Pensions, the Home Office, Number 10, Prime Minister's Office, and he's studied psychology. So an interesting management lineup for our Future Health. But how are they funded? So when I went to look at their funding research, I saw that they'd received 79 million from the UKRI, and they've also received 160 million from leading life science companies. So who are these companies, I ask myself? Well, it didn't take long to find, again, the same old names. And if you just flip to the next slide, I'm sure you'll recognise a few. Here you go. You've got Amgen, AstraZeneca, Biogen. You've got Pfizer down there, Roche, lots of pharmaceutical involvement there. So this is who is wanting to take your data for our Future Health. But who else is involved? On your high street, it comes straight to your high street. And if you haven't received a questionnaire, you may just get asked in Boots if you'd like to fill in the questionnaire there or fill it in online on behalf of Boots. So it's pretty much everywhere. And we have got a little video if we've got time. If not, maybe you want to show it in extra. But there is a little video on Future Health and what to expect coming through your door sometime soon.
Okay, I'm very happy if we have got that to show. I suspect we might not have it. So let's just...
Our Future Health is designed to be the UK's largest health research programme. Our goal is to transform the prevention, detection and treatment of conditions such as dementia, cancer, diabetes, heart disease and stroke, so future generations can live in good health for longer. This film is part of a series designed to answer common questions about the research programme. All the films are available at ourfuturehealth.org.uk. Our Future Health is building a very detailed and highly secure database of health information that could hold the key to life-saving discoveries for decades to come. As more people take part and our database gets bigger, researchers from around the world will apply to study it. An Access Review Committee made up of experts and members of the public will carefully review every single one of these applications. They will only approve health-related studies that are for the public good and that come from legitimate organisations. Many researchers will apply to use the database to look for patterns in the data, searching the information for clues about human health and disease. If you provide a blood sample, researchers will analyse the natural substances it contains. In the coming years, researchers might find that the levels of a particular substance in blood are an early indicator of disease. This could open up new ways to detect it sooner and intervene. Other researchers will want to build on the...
Well, there we are,
so
Debbie.
There you go, researchers from around the world. Where is your data going? And again, my final message would be #just say no.
Just say no. Thank you very much. Well, let's go from one video where we should just trust people in one scenario, the NHS and its partnerships. But let's go into another video with another person we should apparently trust. Let's have a look at the Home Secretary in action.
Well, are you confident that the Met, specifically the Met in terms of the London protests, is doing everything it can to enforce the law robustly enough? Or do you think that certain regulations around extremism and terrorism need to be changed or modified, as the Met Commissioner seems to be suggesting might need to happen?
Well, first of all, let me explain what we've seen over the last few weekends. We've seen now tens of thousands of people take to the streets following the massacre of Jewish people, the single largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust, chanting for the erasure of Israel from the map. To my mind, there's only one way to describe those marches. They are hate marches. Now, secondly, the police and the Crown Prosecution Service are operationally independent. So it's not for me to provide a running commentary on the specific legal decisions that they are making in real time on the ground. But what the police have made clear is that they are concerned that there's a large number of bad actors who are deliberately operating beneath the criminal threshold in a way which you or I, or the vast majority of British people, would consider to be utterly odious. Now, we keep our laws under review, and if there is a need to change the law, just as we did in relation to Just Stop Oil protests last year, I will not hesitate to act.
You referenced chanting. Is it your view that the chant that we hear at some of those protests, from the river to the sea, that one, is anti-Semitic in all contexts, and do you think people should be being arrested for chanting that?
As I said, I'm not going to get into matters which are operationally independent for the police and the Crown Prosecution Service. They need to make those decisions based on the facts and the evidence as they see them. But I have made my views clear. These are hate marches, and the police must take a zero-tolerance approach to anti-Semitism.
Well, no messing there. Hate marches, and we must deal with anti-Semitism. Alex, if you were able to hear that video clip, what's your thoughts? I'm just going to add, I dislike the fact that we have these little secret meetings, then we're going to do something to put the boot further on the public in UK, but we don't want to talk about it. But what was your own take?
For full disclosure, I moved in the same circles as Suella. She was then Fernandez at St John's College, Cambridge. She was in the Conservative Association together with my roommate. I wasn't a member of it, but she's well spoken of. And I think that you could say that there's a fear and a kind of imperative driving her to say this. She's, well regarded as a legal mind. And she's said twice, she's given, for foreign viewers who won't know the constitutional context, she's given the absolutely correct procedure, which is that the chief constables who at law are magistrates run the police, run the constabularies in the counties independently, and that the Home Office can only coordinate and guide. The same as the sentencing guidelines for the judiciary. It's a funny British fudge so that we can say we have independent policing and courts. Everyone knows they take orders from the Home Secretary in practice. Right? So she's gone through all those motions, but it's not that long ago, is it, Brian, since Mike reported on this programme that the Home Office, the same lady, Suella Braverman, had written to the chief constables with the same buzzwords that the interviewer there was coming out with, context. It's a very fashionable thing to say these days. You can make anything seem to be anything else if you say context, provide more context. She's saying in a missive to the chief constables, which has gone on before this interview, in some contexts, chanting from the river to the sea or flying a Palestinian flag will be hate. And then she gives the clincher at the end. She says, zero tolerance to anti-Semitism. That's the order again. The chief constables will do and will trickle down their forces. That's if they know what they're good for, is what's good for them, will implement the arrest first, ask questions later, as seen with very peaceful protesters at the coronation this summer. The same British fudge is going on there. Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. What do you do with such a quote? You can't get inside the people's minds who say it. That's the core issue. And I'm afraid this is just the latest and most contentious example of how the whole Western world, particularly English and Scottish courts, now are saying we determine contexts. And that goes back to the stage of arrest. Never mind what the Public Order Act 1986 or equivalent outside England and Wales says about there must be grounds for an observer of reasonable firmness to take great umbrage and feel very upset. No, that all goes by the board. And in the case of the David Icke hearing with the Dutch courts, they're even more knee-jerk. They say it doesn't matter what you meant by it. It's, we have to protect the people who say boo-hoo easily. And that philosophy's come through to the whole of the West now. And Britain is particularly disingenuous in how it applies it because our legislation is very strict on paper and our jurisprudence on how to interpret that legislation. You have to show that you have an evil mind, a mens rea, to be prosecuted even to be threatened with arrest by constables. But no, in practice, if you fly a Russian flag or a Palestinian flag, they'll come down on you with the postmodern stuff about context. So little time for it, really. Not a bad woman, but in a bad system.
And I would imagine she's being put under huge pressure to follow the diktat from above. Now,